What would you do to be accepted into a group? Would you lie? Would you say chants in a different language to invoke the spirit of a dead man that you've never met? Would you starve yourself? Would you make yourself throw up? You may be thinking, no, Brianna, there's no way I would ever do any of those things. But from my experience living at Yogaville, and in all the reading that I've been doing as I've been studying about cults, I've learned that if put in the right social conditions, people will do just about anything. Jordan Peterson once said, and I'm not a Jordan Peterson fan, but a broken clock is right twice a day. He once said, "Don't be so quick to say that you would never do something. Instead, you should ask yourself, what would it take for me to do that thing that is totally against my values?" If you are in a vulnerable enough state and you are put in a certain environment, you might do things that you never thought you would do. In today's episode, we're exploring what makes people change their belief systems. When I first got to Yogaville, I didn't know anything about Hinduism or any Eastern religion, really. But after not that much time, I ended up completely shifting the way I viewed the world, and I even believed that Swami Satchidananda, a man that I never met, was directing my life from beyond the grave. How did this happen? How did I change from being a skeptical agnostic to someone who was completely devoted to integral yoga and serving the vision of Swami Satchidananda? There's a month-long immersion program at Yogaville called the Light Program, or the Living Yoga Training Program. And in this program, you're expected to live the life of a yogi. You have to wake up every morning at 5 a.m. to go to meditation. You do a required amount of yoga classes every week. You volunteer in various departments of the ashram. And you also take a lot of scripture study classes about traditional, yogic, and Hindu philosophy. All of the Light Program participants are also required to follow the integral yoga lifestyle principles as they were prescribed by Swami Satchidananda. These lifestyle principles include rules like abstinence, no meat or eggs, there's clothing requirements, no alcohol or recreational drugs. This is a big shift for a lot of people to go from their average American desk job to the ashram lifestyle. And I know there has to be something about this program that makes so many people completely shift the way they show up in the world and the core values they believe and hold on to. I want to know what draws people to a place like Yogaville, and why do they end up staying? To help explore the answer to this question, I've invited my friend Satya to tell me a little bit more about her experience in this immersion program. I first met Satya in 2015 when I first arrived at Yogaville. I had just dropped out of college and so had she. She arrived at Yogaville not long before I did, but I was so impressed by her knowledge and passion about yogic philosophy. We both lived at Yogaville for a few years and eventually parted ways, but we always stayed in touch. In this episode, Satya gets so vulnerable and so incredibly honest, and just hearing her speak helped me learn a lot about myself that I hadn't realized. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about guru abuse, as well as eating disorders, and other uncomfortable topics. This is Brianna Patton, and you're listening to Surviving Satchidananda, Episode 2, Indoctrination. Okay, so Satya, how did you first become involved with Yogaville?
Well, there's this article that's on the internet, and it sent a lot of people to Yogaville. It's something like, "Are you broke?"
Yep, broken
And
jobless?
are you
Try
broke and
Yogaville.
jobless? Exactly. A lot of people said that article sent them there. It also did for me too, but I had a big interest in yoga at the time, and I saw they had a garden and a farm, and I thought how nice it would be to interact with plants and be close to nature that way. And plus the campus online looked so beautiful, so I just applied, and I was so happy I got accepted, and I made arrangements to get there because I didn't really have anything substantive going on in my life. I was really maybe not in a good place, you could say, definitely say. So that's how I started.
So did you
Um,
fly out or did you take a
no,
flight?
yeah, I flew out. I flew
Okay.
out, and then they sent Turtle. I don't,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. He had the truck and he picked me up from the airport. And we had a very great conversation very early on. He was telling me about some of the things that Swami Satchidananda said about the animals, how the mantras can still the spirits of the animals and how they recognize, the inner spiritual core of a person. And it was very neat. I was like, wow, this is definitely a departure from any kind of reality that I knew, because I've never even been to that part of the country before either, and that was exciting too.
So what were you doing when you decided to go out there?
Honestly, I had dropped out of school about a couple months prior. I was in my second year at a great California university, but I didn't know what I wanted to major in, and I felt kind of depressed as well. So I just decided I'm gonna stop this and figure out what I want to do, and if I want to come back, I'll pick it up later. But at the time, yeah, I was getting involved with a lot of the alternative, one might say, hippie lifestyle. I was exposed to the Grateful Dead, which I don't recommend to anyone. I'm just kidding. No, and I was really trying, and a big part of the appeal of Yogaville, the appeal of offering a transcendental spiritual experience, was I wanted to recreate the feeling that I experienced on mushrooms. I thought that psychedelics had the answers because of the amount of the amazing bliss and sense of interconnectedness I had experienced while taking them in my college years. But actually, I think maybe they drove me into a bit of a depression, and
Hmm.
and maybe kind of hampered my ability to progress in a like serious and mature way. And in some instances, I'm not saying that mushrooms are bad. I'm just saying I think maybe I abused them a little bit.
So you would say you were kind of like confused and searching for meaning at the time?
Definitely, I was feeling like a bum and a dropout and
Mm.
just sad, and I didn't have any purpose or direction or community really that I liked. I had people that I hung out around, but I just didn't feel like it was cohesive, and I didn't feel it was working.
So what
So, go
initially
ahead.
attracted you to Yogaville? Was like when you saw the website after you read that article, was it just like
Yeah, everything looks so beautiful, like the landscaping, and but what really drew me in was like the natural beauty of the area, and also the website looked so clean and professional. And I
yeah.
know this because my mom is a graphic designer for like a spiritual organization, and I know like good spiritual organizations have good graphic designers, and like I don't know why I just kind of pieced that together. I'm like, yeah, this looks legit.
What were your first impressions when you got there?
I was kind of terrified. I arrived super sick, and I felt just so sick and so like gross. And then I'm kind of launched into this sterile environment with all these like super attractive people, and well, also these swamis who are older, and just all these different people who were all knew the chants and knew the things. And then I went into my bedroom, and this kind of like a bare bunk with the picture of the Swami on the wall, and I'm like, wow, this is quite legitimate. Like, I kind of started launched in. I felt unprepared, and I was like, I'm gonna take this super seriously because I need to. Basically, I was treating it as a detoxification. Like, I felt just toxic. I felt gross. I felt messed up. I felt confused. So I thought, if I come here, this could possibly be my future and the answer to all of my problems and prayers.
Wow. What were your first thoughts about Swami Satchidananda?
It took me some time to warm up to Swamiji. There was everyone is going to say that the guru thing is very, very big at Yogaville because he'd left the body in the early 2000s, and a lot of people there had known him or known him since they were children. Some people had known him since their parents were young or, generationally. And so this is an actual man who was in the flesh, who walked through the same doorways, the same halls, and yet people are venerating him as though he is a god. And so immediately that I was kind of like, I'm going to take a little step back from that because I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to adopt this person as my guru, but I found the idea interesting that you just do what is told for you. It's all laid out. It's all a perfect program. This person is wiser than you. You should just accept it. That's the idea. And so a big rebellious nature in me always wants to try to like poke holes in what he's saying and be like, well, is that true? Is that really true? I wanted to disagree with him a lot, and I wanted to, I wanted to find him fallible because the worship was kind of off. But I didn't have a huge issue with it. I kind of grew to like him. I grew to like him eventually. I still listen to his talks sometimes. But of course, since the abuse scandal, I definitely have a different like it puts a real not a good taste about all of that. That makes me reticent to tune into songs and
Hmm. What was your experience like in the light program?
yeah, so I came in with a great group of super serious and dedicated people who just took it with 100% seriousness. And I said, well, I kind of treated them as competition. And then I was like, I need to take this super seriously. I immediately started fasting. Like I launched in this really long 5-day fast almost as soon as I got there because I was like, I feel like I need to make some really big changes. And I think I just went too fast and too hard on myself when I was there. I think he said something about Swami Satchidananda said in one of his talks, like in the early stages of a spiritual practice, can be a lot of tension, even sickness and stressful experiences can be derived from the intensity of really wanting to shed all these samskaras. So that was me for sure. Like I started fasting immediately. I didn't, I just thought I just need to take this as seriously as possible. I tried to go to every class, every yoga class, every asana class that I could. I think I volunteered like extra. I was like, I need to be like the perfect Yogaville person, even though I'm so far from doing that. But I really did enjoy the asana practice quite a lot, especially at first. I thought this is great. If I could just do this every day, then I'll be happy forever.
What
But
was
yeah.
the leadership like in the light
Oh,
program?
yes, there was this woman, Swami, well, now her name is Swami Arivananda. At the time, she was Sister Mukti. She honestly she scared the bejeebers out of me, so to speak.
Why is that?
She was so intense. I think a lot of people will agree with me when I say like she's really driven. I was like so terrified to talk with her. I remember we had a meeting early on. She was asking me how everything is, and I was like, "Yeah, it's all great. I feel super happy here at Yogaville. I feel very spiritual, very involved." She'd say something like, "I think there's something missing. I think there's something." Like it kind of was like she's like digging at me, and she's like, "I think there's something there we're not getting at. Like you need more." You just need there's something beneath the surface, like we need to kind of like the idea like we need to purify you more, we need to work on you more, like you're not ready yet, you're not spiritual yet. That was that's like the whole feeling of being there. Like I'm trying to get there to become evolved, and I just didn't feel like I was up to snuff. And that's how she emphasized made me feel. And when I was on my 5-day fast, I told her, and she like generally encouraged me, gave me a book to read about it, even though the book would say you should really I don't know, you probably should ease into it. But it was my first ever fast. It was 5 days or maybe a week or something. And then the next week after that, I was just eating myself into a coma at every meal. Yeah, I stuffed myself for maybe like 2 weeks. Like it was really disproportionate and imbalanced. It was so much of my experience at Yogaville was just like oscillating between different disordered eating behaviors, and that's very human, and that's gonna come up in yoga circles. Like I understand, like especially women deal with that kind of thing all the time, young women, you know. So yeah. I feel almost guilty that that was such a huge part of my Yogaville experience, but in a way, Yogaville kind of brought it out at me. It kind of like this extended fastings that I decided to do, like kind of brought out eating disordered thoughts that I hadn't really experienced up to that point. And I started to become more aware of my body, but at the same time, like kind of hating my body too, and wondering what I'm not doing right to achieve like the perfect physique, or to attain like level 3 yogi status and do all the headstands and the handstands perfectly, or just to even like be as slim and slender as so many of the teachers there, was just like a huge source of anxiety for me. And it was something I thought about all while I was doing my like karma yoga and my meditation. Like it kind of just, I don't know if this is revealing too much, but all I kind of remember about Yogaville is feeling insecure about my body and doing anything I could to remedy that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely relate because I had body image issues going into it,
Mhm.
but that was the first time I really like extended like not eating for long periods of time. And I was like, wait, if I don't eat, I will lose a lot of weight. And then I
Mhm.
remember at one point I had lost so much weight that Gabriel was like, "You look like a prepubescent boy." And I thought that was like the best compliment ever.
You did look rather skinny.
I know that's like the thing too is like obviously I've gained weight since I eat now,
Yeah.
and don't like go on multiple day or week-long fasts regularly.
Right.
So I'm always like when I see pictures of myself from back then, I'm like, oh, I wish I could be that skinny
Ugh.
again.
It's so hard to look at a picture of yourself when you were fasting. For me, it's like a train crash when the pendulum swings. It's like
Yeah.
it's just a terrible thing. I've never really binge ate until I was starting to do fasting. So yeah, I totally relate to you as well.
Were there any key moments or experiences that made you feel welcome or validated by the group?
Well, there are a lot of really friendly swamis. There were a lot of really friendly reverends as well, who, and some of the classes, I had positive experiences in the classes. I felt the classes, like the Bhagavad Gita and the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali classes, were very welcoming and accessible. And that's kind of where I felt at home. I didn't know people sat in rooms and talked about yogic philosophy in this day and age. And to have, it was a requirement, but I almost wanted to do more of it. I think they had, yeah, and in fact, eventually I started going to the optional classes that are off campus and things like that because of just how pleasant I found them, to be honest. So yeah, that was the most welcoming thing for me. Also, the cook, and you remember Ram Dass, the cook? Well, he was
Yeah.
really he was a cool guy. He was always making everyone feel super spiritual, but also like grounded. Like he was a super grounded
Hmm.
normal guy too. That's what I appreciated that. So those are probably the most welcoming parts of Yogaville to me.
But Arivananda, you're saying, like,
Oh God.
she didn't say exactly what you needed to work on. She was just like, oh, there's just something off about you. Is that
Yes. And
what?
also, yes, and yeah, she made me jump out of my skin. And then there was this Ayurvedic doctor there. I have this distinct memory. You go to see her and she gives you like a list of things to do that's gonna fix you, basically. And I sat down and the first thing she asked me, she's like, "So, what's wrong with you?" And like the weight of that question, and I'm like, everything. No, I didn't say I didn't say that, but also I felt like why are these people are all telling me like there's something wrong with me? And I came here in a sense because I felt that and I wanted to correct that, but it's like these people were very eager to agree with me and I felt, I just felt scared and exposed.
I'm just saying that's so like intimidating. You're in this new place across the country, and this woman who hasn't even known you for a month yet is like,
Mhm.
there's something wrong from you about you, and
Yeah.
we need to fix that.
Yeah, that really kind of ate at me.
Mm.
It still eats. Those two meetings still pop up in my brain. And I feel defensive of my little self. I don't know exactly what was wrong with her, but I don't feel that it was entirely, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what I would have said to me at the time. But a lot of, people are just so polite there, but some people are just like, yeesh, that's a bit unwelcoming. And that's a bit, I don't know what I would ask them to stay instead, but maybe just not that. Don't make me feel like I'm already a big problem. I already feel like a big problem inside. Imagine, like, okay, I'm not eating, like, first time in my life, I never skipped a meal in my life. The first time in my life, I'm going 5 days without food and being told from a bunch of different directions that there's something wrong with me. I just felt like, I need to. No, it seriously messed me up psychologically a little bit because just the idea of like, oh, you have to purify, you have to purify. For me, that's not like, I didn't perceive it as a gradual process. I felt like it was an emergency almost. And these people were kind of willing to agree with me on that, you know. And I began to think like, I don't know how I'm going to function if I leave this place, you know. I really felt that every day. I'm like, there's no way for me to live outside of this place. Like pretty much eventually that's kind of what I thought. A lot of people have great lives outside of Yogaville, but at the time I really didn't have a good thriving life outside of Yogaville. I depended entirely on Yogaville at the time, really, and I was willing to do that. I was willing to invest my trust in this organization. I needed it. I needed to be there. I needed everything they had. I couldn't, it was almost like it wasn't even a question of leaving. I mean, this is after I extended my whatever, but it was almost like not even a question of leaving. So, yeah.
Were there any red flags or doubts that you had when you first joined?
Red flags.
Like things that you saw and you were like, "Oh, that's questionable," or "That doesn't seem quite right."
Yeah, there was one of the people said like, yeah, well, in yoga you're only have to supposed to have schmex once a month. And I'm like, what? Like this kind of seems like a cult. So that was a red flag. There were others too. Like, I don't know, all the extended fasting that I saw around me, all the like there's that kriya where you like
You throw
um
up?
throw up. That made me so uncomfortable because I didn't want to engage with that because it felt like an eating disorder behavior, but I just didn't. I was losing so much control over my life, and I'm like, oh, if these authority figures are telling me it's going to be a good thing to throw up, and I don't want to, like, it's hard, you know? And then and once you're all cleaned out, you get a mantra placed in you, and you have to repeat, or you get to repeat it for the rest of your life, or when you meditate. That was a red flag to me. I don't quite know why.
You putting it that way is very eye-opening. So, like, what do you think it is about the starving and the puking that goes with the mantra initiation? Like, how
They
do you,
want to clean up, they want to clean out the vessel so they can put the new stuff in. Empty you out so you can put good things in. You know, my idea that I needed to cleanse myself, like I don't even know if these fasts even helped or these kriyas even helped. Like I just feel like it was all like a huge like internal drama, you know?
yeah.
And so I didn't want to do mantra initiation because I already felt like there's so much of the place was inserting itself into me in a
Mm.
way. And I started, you know, you speak the language, you start to speak a language that you start to speak in terms, you know, obviously the Sanskrit terms, like you start to develop an entire language and you live there eventually, and which was exciting and cool, but I like this place has already like gone into my head. Like I need to take a step back. I don't want to do the mantra initiation. That's too like serious. Didn't feel like I didn't really feel genuine
So you never did mantra
devotion.
initiation.
I never did because I never really thought Swami Satchidananda, you were my guru. I never did. And I
Um,
remember oh, sorry, I remember
no,
one
keep
of
going.
the, yes, oh, one of the early experiences I was with someone, and this is why I think it's just so interesting because people can hold two different contradictory views at the same time. I asked my manager, or we talked with my manager about the sex abuse scandal in one of the programs I was in, and he talked of two women. He said, one woman, he said, I have no reason to doubt what she was saying. And so but he didn't go further. And then the other woman, he said, well, that woman is crazy and I totally disregard her testimony. Isn't that odd?
How did that feel when you heard that?
Well, it felt odd because at this point, like, he's an idea, he's a picture on the wall, and then you think, oh, well, he's a man who, like, managed and interacted with these people. I was relieved that there wasn't a guru figure like that there then when I was
Mm.
there because that would have just been I didn't want to be that close to that kind of dynamic, you know? with
Yeah.
such a powerful authority figure with such sway over so many people who like devoted their entire lives to him, you
Hmm.
know, even devoted like
Yeah.
had families there and had him name their children and everything like that. And I'll tell you, one of the swamis actually did name my son. I'll tell you that. So in a way, I like I understand. Like I love so many things about Yogaville, but I have to just say that. And I think that he was probably fallible. So yeah.
So when you first got there, you were kind of resistant to the guru thing, but then you eventually said, I mean, you never accepted him completely as your guru, but you said you got more, you started to like it. What do you think
I was
made
very
that change
charmed.
for you?
Yeah, I was very charmed by I was charmed by the idea of like guru worship. I saw it and I witnessed it. It was odd to me, but I found it charming at the same time that these people would invoke him. And, they were just constantly invoking a human being who had a body. It was just, it's just such a departure from anything I've ever experienced before to treat a man, a physical man who walked the earth like he's a god, a grandfather, a guiding light, like something you bring to your mind every day. Like that was so strange to me because I never had that kind of relationship with anybody, and I don't think many people do. I don't think except maybe a lot of people feel that about Jesus Christ, and I do know on some good authority that people thought he was the incarnation of Jesus Christ.
So people told you that they thought he was an incarnation of Jesus?
Yes,
These are
but
people that knew him when,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
early Yogaville people?
Yes. But maybe I don't know if
You don't have to say their name. Did they say anything? What other, like, myths surrounded Swami Satchidananda?
well they say he like behaved like a superhuman. He had so much energy. They said that he did an asana and all the lights went like it went a blackout. Like they thought they reported he had like actual supernatural powers, which honestly I don't doubt. But at the same time it's like does that mean he's God? Like or does he just have like maybe he's just like a generational yogi and maybe he's not using his yoga for the right purposes, especially if he's manipulating like 19-year-old woman. I can't imagine an enlightened being manipulating an 18 or a 19-year-old woman. Like that just seems like totally perverse, and he would know that would stain his conscience and his reputation. I imagine. I feel really sorry to say it, but I don't think that's excusable. When I think of who I was at 19, I know my brain was not developed. I was 19 when I first came to Yogaville. If
Wow.
I'd been exploited by anyone at 19, years later I would be furious, even if I thought I'd consented at the time, or if I thought it was a mutual relationship at the time. Because 19, man, I don't know. Your brain is not developed. These girls' brains are not developed, and he was taking them in as a secretary, basically adopting them. I can't imagine.
Yeah. What did you think about the rules?
The rules made Yogaville what it was. It made it look pristine, but it also kind of made it like a frightening place in a way. Because I did, you see his eyes everywhere. It's like
Wow.
it's like the walls have eyes.
Damn, I never thought of it that way. His
Yeah.
because his picture is all over the place.
Every bedroom,
Yeah.
even the lady's bedroom, there's his face. That's a bit that's a like almost a step too far. Like in my opinion, like just this kind of worship of a man, an actual human being. And he and his the rules were his brainchild. That's why they enforced them, because he was the man who was God who thought up the rules that are enforceable to make this a pristine yogic environment. And it's awfully just intimidating to live because I'm used to living like you kick up your feet and enjoy like a snack and what like it's a total departure from reality. Living in that kind of place for months on end, it 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 kind of made me a little psychotic. I remember this one instance where one of the younger members was forming a protest saying like sign this petition because they'd shut down a special part of the temple. They'd shut down a special chamber of the temple. I'm not going to go into where, but and I'd seen one of these venerable swamis like approach this man. And I didn't hear what she'd said at all because it was across the room. She was very quiet. she talked with him, and 20 seconds later, he went onto his entire belly on the floor in the middle of Shivananda Hall, touching her feet. You know, done the pranam. They call it a full pranam. That was quite amazing to witness. And
And
he stopped
the protests or the petition stopped after that?
immediately. That was for me. That was a perfect display of how power is conferred.
Wow.
Um, it was amazing. It was quite amazing. They don't tolerate deviation. They don't tolerate the rules being changed or challenged because these rules, like all of them, have some kind of very serious reason behind it, and I don't fully understand it all. I think I just increasingly became a little more psychotic. But yeah, I had a couple of psychotic episodes which were illuminating while I was at Yogaville. I truly felt like broken down and desperate for much of my time there, like trying to conceal this like quiet desperation to like improve myself that didn't seem to be working. Gosh, I truly felt like I spent all this time here and I still don't feel like a fully developed person. I felt kind of just broken down by the experience, but I also felt like I had received a lot of tools to help me too. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I feel that. I'm interested if you want to talk more about it, the psychotic episode, because I also had a psychotic episode, and I know a lot of other people that have had
Oh,
psychosis at
sure.
Yogaville. What do you think did people know at the time that you were experiencing that? Like, did anybody in the program know?
Well, eventually like sometimes I feel like, you feel kind of invisible too, even though you feel watched. Sometimes there's torment going on and a lot of people there are going through torment. But for me, it was like nobody quite knew, but I had to seek out help because I was feeling like rather desperate for help. So I went to seek out one of the swamis.
And
And
how did they support you?
well, we just had a meeting and she told me, and this is something I still use. She's like, every day you gotta take a shower and you don't just like stand under the water and go through the motions. You have to think in your mind, like, I'm cleaning myself. I'm cleaning myself. Like she would say that, and I thought, that's asinine. But I was so desperate for help, and then she basically gave me the thing, like you need to do Nadi Sudi for like 15 minutes, and then Durga Swasam for X amount of time. Which is I did employ it, and it's great. So that is helpful ultimately. Sometimes I do forget to do that, but that they give you the same thing that the guru says all the time. It's like the same. It's like very everyone kind of cards on the table in the sense that they all have the same advice. You use your mantra. You get a mantra first. It's best if you have mantra initiation. You do the exact breathing practices with the nose and the plugging of the nostrils. It just yeah. But I did have a psychotic break. I felt like I just felt terrified of being impure, basically. I felt terrified of being impure. I felt that probably the only practical way to undo all the karmas that I've committed in my life or past lives was to self-immolate or something. Even though he didn't teach anything of that, it just felt like it made logical sense. I don't know.
So
I
you went to this Swami and were like, I feel like I'm going psychotic, and they were
yeah.
like, take a shower mindfully and alternate nostril breathe.
Yeah, well, to be fair, maybe my hair was greasy or something when I came in. And I was at that point, like, I just had no idea. Like, I was really going through it because I almost felt like I'm here, this is an emergency, none of this is going to be enough. Like, I don't know what to do. I'm fasting. I was just a complete mess when I went to this Swami. So yeah, but I appreciate the shower advice, Brianna, because I still use that affirmation though. That's kind of the only thing that I was able to understand through retrospect. Like at the time, I'm like, this is really stupid, and you're not helping at all. But
But I feel like if you're having psychosis about feeling dirty,
yeah,
take a
yes,
shower. I don't know. I feel like
yeah.
that's gonna trigger more of that.
That the thing is when you come to them with like certain delusions, like I feel dirty, I feel like there's so much I say like there's so much hideousness and evil and sin in me and I don't know what to do. Like they don't deny any of that. They don't deny the bad stuff, but they say, but there's a lot of beauty too. Like one of the things like they're not trying to say no, you're fine. You're just fine the way you are. They're not trying to say that. but that's not how it's a program. They see it as a program of purification, of cleansing. They don't see, for me, they see people as a project. But I just felt so scared the whole time. I felt scared, Brianna. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, not the whole time. Like there were some weeks that everything went fine. Everything went great even. But there were some moments where I just felt terrified, Brianna. Like I just felt scared of all the people. I felt the eyes, the impurities.
just like you were being watched, or
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
were doing something wrong, or there was something wrong with you.
Oh, all the time. Yeah. That's gonna be a part of it. With all of course, with all the rules, like I think probably a lot of people felt that way. I don't know if for sure, but I know I felt that way. I'm speaking of my experience. Really, what I'm describing, Brianna, is that I felt like I was a tortured outsider, basically, and that this was a weird place that had rules that I was not used to, and I wasn't sure if they were legitimate because they came from a human man who they're worship in a cult like way, to be honest. So
So if why did you stay so long? If like it was this, I did because I didn't realize you were going through all this internally.
oh, Brianna. Well, that's because you were like my rock, to be honest.
What?
I don't mean to put that on you.
No, you were honestly, yeah, you were there for me too a lot, and you were probably like my favorite person there.
Well, yeah, you were my favorite person because we had so much in common too, and even now we relate to each other so well.
I
And
always thought you were just like very smart and very funny. Like I had no idea that
oh, that's
suffering.
no, I just felt kind of like a mess. I kind of felt like a mess, and I'm sure for me, you were just always grounded and fun and really funny too. Like realistically, like one of the funniest people there because that's just the way you were constantly like you were kind of with me. Like you're like, what is going on here? Like, can we talk about this? A lot of the lights had that, but not a lot of them stay as long as you and I did, you know? And
We just had so many funny moments together.
yeah, yeah, it was good times.
But like, what else was keeping you there, do you think? Because there were times where like I would leave and come back, and you were there
You're right.
at different
Well,
times. You
I
were
didn't
there.
have a lot. I mean, I still didn't have a lot going for me outside. Like,
Yeah.
I have a hard time making friends, Brianna. But when I was there, I was like, this place, this place is my mom, and this place is my dad. Even though I don't always feel comfortable here. They're raising me up and they're taking care of me, and also they're just feeding me every day. Like, I really like the food was, how
Food was
amazing
so good.
Oh my God. Like I couldn't even like I kind of just stayed for the food in the classes. Honestly, the food in the classes, they're primo. Like I can't
Mhm.
recommend it enough. Ultimately, I left because my relative died. I wanted to go to his funeral, and I kind of just didn't feel like going back. I kind of felt like, oh, I'm going to start over. I'm going to start my life over, get a job.
Were there any times when you felt manipulated or controlled, even like retroactively?
Yeah, but it's let's see, manipulated. One of the people there is like telling me you need to take this kind of supplement. You need to fast. Like when I was doing like a multi-day fast again, and I ended like halfway through. I think it was like a 6-day fast on day three. I was drinking. I decided to break it with just soup, just like liquids, and then go back on it. This was my first meal in 3 days. I'm drinking a little bit of just broth because it's the Wednesday they serve the great broth on Wednesday. And she came over to me. She's like, you really should be drinking that when you're fasting because it has a high salt content, and that's going to stop you from being fully pure. And I was just and like to this day, I'm pretty enraged by that. Like you're telling me I'm not clean enough. I haven't eaten in 3 days. I'm planning on not eating in for another 3 days. That ticked me off. And she's also telling me like these are the kind of supplements you need to take. Yeah, I did feel a little bit manipulated. I don't like, but I kind of lent myself to that because I kind of had like this sad kitten demeanor sometimes, where I'm like, please take care of me and tell me what to do. At the same time, you can't always trust other human beings with your well-being that way. They have their own things going on. They have their own way of seeing the world. It's so intimate, isn't it? What you're gonna figure out works for you. It's like the most intimate thing ever. It's like the most personal thing ever. And so we give people permission, like, yeah, meddle with me, put a cloth down my throat, have me throw up into a bucket, and tell me what supplements to take. And it's like that's in your whole body. That's who you are. You're like, no wonder these poor 19-year-olds had that happen to them. Like it's like a totally all-encompassing thing. Like we're talking about our bodies inside, our minds inside and out, and appearance, and like their whole being is under scrutiny. It makes sense for the underlying mission, what we're trying to do. Like body as hard as a diamond and spirit as calm as the still lake or something or other. I don't even remember. But like I think if you stay at Yogaville for a prolonged period of time, you consent. You know what I mean? Like you're having surgery when you're there. It's like an invasive surgery.
That's kind
That's
of how
really what
it,
it felt
they
like.
were like rubbing and scrubbing. That's what we're doing here. You're
That
dirty.
rub
We
it.
have to clean you, and it's going to be abrasive.
Yes. Or like, yeah, no, right. Do you think you just clean something by folding it and putting a little flour on it? No, you take it against a rock and you smash it, or like, yeah. Like, all right. Well, that terminology is very confusing, Swamiji, especially because I'm having a psychotic break now, where I feel like I need to set myself on fire. Should I smash myself against a rock instead? Like, if you take things literally, like things can go south very quickly, you know?
I mean, I can't believe that you went to them like that and they didn't get a psychiatrist or a therapist involved. Like, they literally told you to take a shower.
There's not going to be any of that. If they do anything, they send you back home, and then you deal with that on yourself. Because I didn't see a single. I mean, people were therapists, but they were like reverends, and it was like a spiritual. It was like a certain brand of
No one with a
spiritual therapy.
degree in psychiatry or psychology
Right.
was there to support people who, a lot of
No,
people go to Yogaville because they're mentally ill and they want help.
yeah, it's like I didn't listen to music. I didn't watch television. I didn't watch YouTube. I wasn't really on social media. And then just leaving, I felt like the Amish. Like I swear to God, like it just really. That's a big part of what makes that place so charming, in my opinion. Was the how low key it was, how special it was. I was like, okay, you have at the same time like the rules are crazy, but at the same time like you go in and you're like, oh well, if you follow the rules, you get this atmosphere. And so a big thing for a lot of people was like, I'm here for the atmosphere, like this atmosphere, like I need this because otherwise I'm not going to be able to enjoy life to the same extent. And I relate to those people entirely. I appreciate those people entirely. It'd be really nice to have such a quiet and pristine garden atmosphere, basically, at your immediate disposal. That everyone's on the same page. Like, yeah, we're treating this place like a sanctuary because it is. That's a big reason why a lot of people, I imagine, go for like a week or something like that. But being there long term, getting involved with politics, getting involved with the heavy philosophical stuff like that, that's a total overhaul. Like, if you know, yeah.
So, like, what were your first experiences like getting out of that bubble and seeing more of the political aspects of the ashram?
Well, a big part of it is like there's all these people who live on the outskirts, maybe their parents were devotees or something. And so you start to like meet them, they're employed there and stuff. Then they start to talk like, oh yeah, well this person was, I won't even say what, I don't know, maybe like money laundering. Like it's just like you just start to hear all these rumors and you're like, is this place really that dastardly and bad? And then, you know, like some people have such horror stories and you're just like, maybe this place is evil, this place is like more evil than I think, and people are really getting traumatized from it. And then you go back in, and there's this whole friction of like, how much should the outside compromise the in? How much, like, you know, Satchidananda didn't think any of his devotees should listen to rock music. And when one of the neighbors was playing music, they had a whole big meeting about it. Like, to me, that's just so interesting because it's just like, that's what makes Yogaville Yogaville. You're not going to hear rock music allowed at Yogaville, but the idea of enforcing that rule is just so crazy in the modern world that you'd have to be crazy to sign up for this kind of program long term. Like nowhere in this ground will there be rock, hip hop, rap music playing, and that's deliberate and it's actually a rule. And just if you say that aloud, it's like that's crazy. You're in a cult, and then but if you're in it, you're like no, because you're just protecting the atmosphere and the vibe. So there's a lot of gray areas. And you leave campus, you go back on. The politics start to become really real, you know, like it's just so elaborate and there's a lot. I imagine there's a lot hidden. There's a lot I don't know about Yogaville. A lot. And I've learned so much. I learned more than I want to know about Yogaville, to be honest.
Wow. I don't even know where to begin. I just learned so much about myself from that conversation. In the third week of the yoga teacher training program at Yogaville, students are given the option to participate in something called a kriya, or a cleanse. There are a lot of different types of kriyas, but the one that we were invited to participate in was a cleanse where you ingest as much salt water as you possibly can until you physically can't hold any more in your body, and then you start uncontrollably vomiting. So I decided I wanted to do this. I thought it was healthy because my yoga teachers were telling me this is an ancient yogic kriya that will help cleanse and purify your body. So I believed them, and I did this. We woke up very early one morning and went to the academy. When we got there, a lot of our teachers were wearing these horrible wigs, and I just remember thinking, it is too early for this, and why are you wearing a wig when I'm about to puke and it's 5 a.m. right now? So they took us to the woods behind the academy, gave us a bunch of salt water, and then after a couple minutes, we all started puking. Most of my classmates were like, I don't really like that. It felt weird and it felt gross. But me, I was like, I kind of like this. It made me feel light, and it unlocked something in my brain where I was like, I think I found the secret to losing weight. And after I continued to lose weight by participating in intense fasting and making myself puke like that, as I continued to lose weight and people kept telling me that I looked better, I was like, well, damn, I guess I was really fat before and I need to keep doing this. So I did it for a while, but the thing about this puking is I never did it outside of Yogaville. I did continue with the fasting for long periods of time, which I recognize now as unhealthy, but I never made myself puke outside of Yogaville, and I think this really speaks to the social nature of eating disorders. I really don't think that we should be teaching people how to do this. I don't think it is responsible for Yogaville to have this as a part of the teacher training program curriculum, even if it's just an offering and you're not required. There's that influence. People are telling you that this is healthy, and it's not. I don't see any medical utility for making yourself vomit unless you swallowed poison. Not only could this trigger someone to start having an eating disorder, we also don't know what undiagnosed medical condition someone could have where doing this ingesting of salt water and throwing up could harm people. And I don't think it's appropriate to teach in a yoga teacher training program. Your students are not expecting to do that when you go in. And it's not on the website or anything. You don't know that this is going to be presented to you as something that is healthy. I think that's the main thing where I feel uneasy about this, is it's not a healthy thing, but they make you believe that it is. But yeah, I'm going to be thinking about this conversation for a long time. And we didn't even get into the psychosis because that is a whole nother ball game. There's a lot of people at Yogaville who experience episodes of psychosis there. I was one of those people that experienced that, but I can't, that's a lot for me to deal with right now, and I can't even begin to think about that. If you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. This is Brianna Patton, and I'll see you next time on Surviving Satchidananda.